Hello. I know I haven't made a video in a while, so I just thought I would do so. And something a little bit different than I normally, make. Something, well, probably because this is an election year too. This has been on my mind for a little bit. But stuff about America, and people often will say this country is a democracy. I live in America, in case you didn't know that, but it is not. It is a republic. It says so in our Pledge of Allegiance, as well as this. It was also stated by the founding fathers as a constitutional republic. And I'm going to read an article that is very informative. It's also long, well, it's not really long, but it's just showing the differences between democracy and a republic. And yeah. Here we go. And I hope this video also isn't too boring for you. And I will leave the link in the description below, because I've read this article many times before. Like a few times, I shouldn't say many. But I found this very interesting, and there are a couple of videos in it to help even emphasize the difference between the two. So you can give this a read as much if you would like to, and even if not, just to see the videos that it has within the article, because they are very interesting articles and very good articles, or videos. Well, it's a good article as well as a good videos. So, and without further ado, let us let us begin. Democracy versus republic. The key difference between a democracy and a republic lies in the limits placed on government by the law, which has implications for minority rights. Both forms of governments tend to use a representational system, i.e., citizens vote to elect politicians to represent their interests and form the government. In a republic, a constitution or charter of rights protects certain inalienable rights that cannot be taken away by the government, even if it has been elected by a majority of voters. In a pure democracy, the majority is not restrained in this way and can impose its will on the minority. Most modern nations are democratic republics with a constitution which can be amended by popular elected government. It would also help if I could talk today. This comparison, therefore, contrasts the form of government in most countries today with a theoretical construct of pure democracy, mainly to highlight the features of a republic. So there is just a little taste of this article has to offer. Comparison chart. The definitions of both governments. Definition of a democracy: rule by the omnipotent majority. In a democracy, an individual and any group of individuals composing any minority have no protection against the unlimited power of the majority. It is a case of majority over man, or majority rule, so to speak, which can either be good or bad depending on whatever circumstances. This is just me talking. I will be doing this here and just giving my little thoughts on said whatever it is I'm reading at the moment that I think I might like to share my 2 cents with. I'm sorry, I will continue now. Definition of republic. A republic is similar to a representative democracy, except it has a written constitution of basic rights that protect the minority from being completely unrepresented or overridden by the majority. Which in the amendments, we have rights that cannot be taken away no matter what, like freedom of speech, right to bear arms. Those are 2 huge things people often talk about, and even in people often debate guns. Personally, I've got nothing against guns. That's my opinion. I would rather have I would basically like the option of getting a gun, obviously the legal way, not just some way of criminal or whatever. I would actually take classes, learn how to shoot said gun. I'm gonna apply to get afterwards, after my permit to carry and all that, as well as to train. Even background checks. Got no problem with that. But with the Second Amendment, it even states inside it that it shall not be infringed. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. It's interesting that it says, or it says that, but people keep debating over this subject. It clearly says it shall not ever be infringed. It doesn't say what kind of guns you can have. Because basically the people who wrote it thought, you should be able to have guns if you want. If you don't want guns, you don't have to have guns. But if you so wish to have a gun, no matter what kind, big or small, you can have one. Legal way. You should always get a gun the legal way, not go out and just get one off somebody on the street that who could get you one, because that's not obeying the law and all that stuff. That that. Also, another thing that is in the Constitution is the freedom of the press. The press can express. They can write certain subjects how they see it. Perhaps it might be a narrow mindset, but they can do that. Either very liberal or very conservative, or somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Constraints on the government. Constraints of a democracy? No, the majority can impose its will on the minority. Essentially, like if you vote like to have your house, like maybe somebody thinks they want your house in a democracy. People can vote to whether you get to keep your house or not. Granted, these are just examples I'm giving, and it's a theoretical thing, but maybe somebody doesn't like the way you live in your house. You're not treating your house good or whatever. They can be like, I want to live here. This house has had potential before you got it, and now you have it, and now it's just going to hell, and I can take better care of it than you can. So if this person gets most people to agree with him that, you should be kicked out of your house and this guy should move into yours, in democracy, if something like that happened, majority rules, you get kicked out of your house and you have to find somewhere else to live while this guy is going to live in your house. Might not even really take care of it any better than you did. This is a theoretical thing, but like maybe you actually there's nothing wrong with how you even took care of the house. Maybe you took care of it very fine. Perhaps certain circumstances was just perhaps certain things weren't that great. Maybe the paint was chipping and you couldn't get it repainted, the house repainted, lawn, maybe your budget is tight, money, and you can't really afford something like a better lawnmower, perhaps, for your lawn, or just other things, Maybe you make the best with what you can with your situation, but this guy, perhaps, maybe he has better money. Maybe this guy has more money, and then you when you see how this guy takes care of the place he used to live, you see, he's not even taking care of it that well. He's actually a lot worse. At least with you, perhaps there was a situation. Now, obviously, this is hypothetical, but perhaps there was a reason for why you didn't have a lot of money, couldn't get another job to help pay for it, or you couldn't get a raise in whatever job you have, and within the position you have at your current working situation, so you're kind of stuck. And you were able to make it work with what you had. This guy this is better, has a lot more money, and he just doesn't care. He just lets it go to hell and worse. Maybe let's just say that. So that's the constraints of government and democracy. There is no constraints. Majority can impose its will on the minority. That doesn't sound fun, but hey, that's how it is. A republic, yes, there are constraints on the government. The majority cannot take away a civil right. Essentially, you have to, that would not happen. You wouldn't get kicked out of your house because somebody thinks, I should be able to live in that house because I could take care of it a lot better than you. That wouldn't happen. And even if it did, there would have to be probably a court thing, which I don't know. That hypothetical situation, I don't know if that would ever happen. Who knows? People have gone to court for some interesting things. So, hey, philosophy and democracy. The philosophy is all eligible citizens get equal say in decisions. In a republic, all eligible citizens get equal say in decisions with protection of inalienable rights of individuals. And I'm able to really talk today. So if I mispronounce certain words, I apologize. I know I've probably already done that. Famous examples of a democracy: classical Greece and Rome. Famous examples of a republic: the United States of America. Sovereignty is held by in a democracy by the whole population as a group. In a republic, sovereignty is held by the people, individual. Essentially, we elect those who we think should be in a position of power, like who should represent us in the Senate, who should be the mayor, who should be the senators, who should be the president. Common confusion in the U.S. in a democracy is people commonly confuse direct democracy with representative democracy. The U.S. officially has a representative style, though many have suggested the U.S. is closer to an oligarchy or plutocracy. I don't know that word, so I apologize. I don't think I've really ever seen that word before, even in certain government history classes. And if I had, it's probably just something that just was very glossed over. Common confusion in the U.S. with a republic is the U.S. is actually a republic. It is governed by rule of law. The elected are bound by the oath to the written governing limits, i.e. Constitution, yet vote together and create laws to address concerns of the represented in a democratic way. Free choice in a democracy. Individuals may make decisions for themselves except insofar as majority function has limited individuals. In a republic, free choice, individuals may make decisions for themselves, especially insofar as there is constitutional prohibition on interfering with freedom of choice. A political system, democracy is democratic. This is not meant to as a reference to the Democratic Party. The political system of a republic is Republican. This is not meant as a reference to the Republican Party either. Social structure of a democracy. Class distinctions become pronounced due to capitalist society, vary state to state. In a republic's social structure, class distinctions become pronounced due to capitalist society, varies from state to state. Religion in a democracy. Generally, freedom of religion is permitted, although a majority faction may limit religious freedom for a minority faction. Religion in a republic, generally freedom of religion is permitted, especially insofar that there is a constitutional prohibition on interfering with freedom of religion. Basically, in a republic, you can have any religion you want. If you want to be a Christian, you can. If you want to be an atheist, you can. Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever religion there is, agnostic. Like in a democracy, it seems that you can have any religion you want, except if a majority of people thinks there should be a limit of the freedom that you have within your religion, then that shall be imposed. So that if your religious freedoms within got restricted, I don't know how many people would be happy about that. No matter what religion or no religion you may have, who would want to be told, yeah, you can be an atheist or a Christian, but you can't. There's only so much you can ever express of your beliefs or anything pertaining to religion. I don't know if many people like their religious views to be restricted. I know many people who wouldn't. Economic system, democracy is elected by the voters or their elected representatives, usually capitalist or Keynesian. In a republic, the economic system is elected by the voters or their elected representatives, usually capitalist or Keynesian. It's the same thing, really. That actually is word for word. So there you go. Private property. In a democracy, generally, private property is permitted, although a majority of faction may place limits on property rights. My example may fit that or may not, depending on what you think. Perhaps someone says you can't have so much property. Like you can't have, maybe you wanted 20 acres of land or 30. Well, majority may say you can't. You can only have 10 or so. In a republic, private property generally private property is permitted, especially insofar as there is a constitutional prohibition on interfering with property rights. So you can have as much land as you want. If you're able to pay for it, super. Discrimination in a democracy. In theory, all citizens have equal say and are treated equally. However, often allows for the tyranny of majority over the minority, which isn't good. Like, doesn't sound good. Not to me, anyway. In theory, discrimination in a republic is that all citizens have equal say and are treated equally by the government, especially insofar as there is a constitutional prohibition on government discrimination. Variations of a democracy is direct democracy, parliamentary democracy, representative democracy, presidential democracy. In a republic, the variations are democratic republics or constitutional republics. In America, we have a constitutional republic. Modern examples of democracy says more than half of the world, including the U.S., Canada, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, etc. are democracies, but and yet the United States of America is a republic. I think the reason is the U.S. in the modern example of a democracy is so many people keep saying it's a democracy. It's one of those things where if you keep repeating something long enough, people will start to believe it. When really, like as said earlier in the article, democracies highlight certain things of a republic. Just because there are a few similarities here or there, it doesn't necessarily mean they're the same thing. Key elements of a democracy are free elections. Key elements of a republic are free elections and the Constitution. The way of changing in both a democracy and a republic are voting. Those are so. Democracies and republic have the exact same way of changing things. Observation and practice. In democracy, people commonly confuse direct democracy with representative democracy. The U.S. has a representative style, but the will of the people shouldn't easily decide to change rules that limit power to the government. Observation and practice in a republic is the USA's Constitution clearly shows the U.S. as a republic in Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. And here's more stuff of democracy, of more examples of what democracy and a republic. What is a democracy? Democracy is a form of government. Democracy is a form of government in which all eligible citizens have a right to equal participation, either directly or through elected representatives in the proposal, department, and creation of laws. To put it in very simple terms, it is a form of government where people choose their own government and voice the majority of rules. Once a majority is established, the minority has no say. Essentially, they're expanding upon now of certain things that was already said. And there's a video here after that called Constitutional Lecture 4, Democracy or Republic. Again, I saw these videos and they're good. What is a republic? The term republic, as used today, refers to representative democracy with an elected head of state, such as a president serving for a limited term. Even in a republic, it's the voice of the majority that rules through chosen representatives. However, there is a charter or constitution of basic rights that protects the minority from being completely unrepresented or overridden. And there's another video. Is America really a democracy? That is good as well. Are a democracy and republic mutually exclusive? There are many who make this statement. The United States is a republic, not a democracy. This makes it seem like a democracy and a republic are mutually exclusive. They usually aren't. Usually a republic is a type of representational democracy with some checks and balances enshrined in the Constitution that safeguard the rights of minorities. A pure democracy would imply the rule of the majority in every sphere of life without much safeguards. But as already shown in the article, there are two types of republics. Democratic republic and a constitutional republic. We are a constitutional republic. You know, again, there are certain things democracies and republics have, but they're not completely the same. They just have certain things that coincide with each other. Is the U.S. a democracy or a republic? The U.S. is a republic. Though it is now common for people, including American politicians, to refer to the U.S. as a democracy, this is shorthand for the representation of a republic that exists, not for a pure democracy. The republic continues to be mentioned in the Pledge of Allegiance, which was written in 1892 and later adopted by Congress in 1942 as an official pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. While the founders disagreed regarding the role of the federal government, none sought to build a pure democracy. We are now forming a republican government. Real liberty is neither found in despotism or the extremes of democracy, but in moderate governments. Moderate governments. Alexander Hamilton is who said that. It is that in a democracy, people meet and exercise the government in person. In a republic, they assemble and administer it by the representatives and agents. A democracy, consequently, may be confined to a small spot. A republic may be extended over a large region. That was said by James Madison. Americans directly elect council members, governors, state representatives, and senators, and numerous other officials. However, senators are indirectly elected in the past. So they were in the past indirectly elected by. So that was way back when. Some other officials, such as mayors, may or may not be directly elected. The president is indirectly elected via electoral college. The legislative and executive branches then appoint a variety of officials to their positions. For example, the president, executive branch, nominates a justice to the Supreme Court when a seat needs to be filled. The Senate, legislative branch, must confirm this nomination. Implications. There are several political implications that arise from the U.S. being a republic. Laws passed by the majority through representatives in government, federal or local, can be challenged and overturned if they violate the U.S. Constitution. For example, Jim Crow laws mandating racial segregation were deemed unconstitutional and were repealed. And in Brown versus the Board of Education, the U.S. Supreme Court repeals state-sponsored school segregation. In 1967, Loving versus Virginia, the Supreme Court overturned that all the remaining anti-misconception laws, which banned interracial relationships, including marriages. So all that was then disbanded. If a black man and a white woman wanted to get married, they could, or a white man and a black woman could get married after that was repealed. In the 1800s, however, the court ruled in favor of states' rights to ban interracial sex, cohabitation, and marriage. This illustrates the power of cultural mores, which influences the interpretation of the Constitution. In more recent cases, the 2010 Healthcare Reform Bill, aka Obamacare, was challenged by the U.S. Supreme Court because it forces individuals to buy health insurance. The law was passed by a majority of Congress, but critics claim it violates individual liberties by forcing individuals to engage in commerce, a power that the government does not have in this republic. Ultimately, the court ruled the individual mandate was constitutional, but that states should not be required to expand Medicaid. Medicaid. Another example is California Proposition 8, a state constitutional amendment in which a majority of voters in California voted to make same-sex marriages illegal. Critics of the law argue it violates the individual liberties of gay and lesbian couples, and the majority does not have the right to do that in a republic. While courts in California upheld the amendment, deeming it constitutional, the federal government overturned it, judging it was unconstitutional under both the due process and equal protection clauses of the 14th Amendment. Yet another example, Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. Citizens United is a conservative organization that sued the Federal Election Commission over its restrictions of campaigning financing. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Citizens United, saying the restrictions of an organized or corporation's right to fund a political campaign is a restriction of that entity's free speech rights under the First Amendment. If the U.S. was not a republic, laws passed by the government, elected by majority, could not be challenged. The Supreme Court, and indeed lower courts too, can determine which laws are constitutional and has the power to uphold or overturn laws it judges to be unconstitutional. This demonstrates that the rule of law and the U.S. Constitution are higher authorities than the will of a majority at any given time. The history of democracies and republics. Democracies are older than republics. Pinpointing which place or people had the world's first democracy or republic, however, is difficult. Many countries, tribes, and cultures had at least some democratic or republican procedures. For example, voting on community matters, electing elders to power, and even creating rules regarding individual rights have occurred on small and sometimes larger scale. Even so, the most well-documented early democracy was found in Athens, Greece, and established around 500 BCE. Under Athenian democracy, the people voted on every law. This was pure or direct democracy, where the majority had nearly complete control over rights and progress. The most well-documented historical representational republic is the Roman Republic, which developed shortly after Athenian democracy, again around 500 BCE. The rule of law favored by the Roman Republic remains popular in most of today's governments. It's worth noting the Roman Republic had an unwritten constitution that was constantly adapting to changing principles. Democracies and republics today, despite the common use of the word democracy and the desire to spread democracy, most countries throughout the world today govern as republics. However, republics differ widely, with some operating under the presidential system where the people directly or nearly directly elect a president who is the head of the government, a parliament system where the people elect legislature who decides the executive branch, and even constitutional and parliamentary monarchies that tend to behave as republics, but often have royal figureheads. And it has a little map of the world and has certain colors like are shown to represent which are each individual governments. Blue is all presidential republics, and America is all blue. And again, you can look at all this in the description. I know at certain times it may have been all over the place, and I apologize for that. But yeah, I just thought it may be easier to say something that I may have a thought on like right after I say it, as opposed to jumping back and having to find myself or find whatever train of thought and perhaps even look over whatever it is I would want to talk about, and then just perhaps even ramble on longer. And I know at the end I just kind of just didn't really give a lot of my own thoughts as much as I thought I would, but you know, hey, that's something I just kind of wanted to share. I kind of wanted to do it for some time. Sorry, I kind of mispronounced certain words. It maybe spoke a little fast, or maybe kind of went on, but you know, I'm not able to really talk today. Plus, I knew if I didn't really do it now, it would just take a lot longer for me to make this video, and I thought it would be an interesting video, you know, different from what I usually do. Usually I just do movie stuff, which is great, and I hope to do that again soon. But I hope this was a nice change of pace for all of you people who watch my stuff, and even if you're new, you can watch some of my other stuff or not, you know. It's up to you, but yeah. Again, the link of this article with those two videos, which are very good, by the way, again, are in the description below. So if you want to read it for yourself and actually read all the words, not screw them up as I did here and there, you can do so in the description. With that, I bid you all farewell, goodbye, and hope you have a good day. And that is it for now. So until next time, goodbye.